Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at HBAR. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, so before we jump into the lower time frame count here, we're going to have a couple of discussions about what we're looking for on the higher time frame. So there's two ways that I'm still currently looking at this. So when we were talking about this move here, we were saying that we could potentially have this as a flat correction into the high here, in which case what we are still looking for is this fifth wave to the downside. Now, given the current structure here, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for this to play out as a fifth wave unless we are going to see something along the lines of a diagonal pattern, in which case this is what we'd be looking out for here. What we'd be saying then is that we have this as A, B, and C for our wave 1. This would be potentially our wave 2, or alternatively we could have this as A, B, and then we still have one more push to the upside. Invalidation of this idea of a diagonal pattern comes by crossing back above the 0987. Now within this idea here, like I said, it would be more probable to me that, you know, potentially we still have one more push to the upside here for this wave 2, just because the structure ideally would be a zigzag, and the move up here is not great as a zigzag unless you were going to say we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we had a very short C wave here for this as an ABC. What we need to then have, though, if this is going to be something like a diagonal, is we need to form a 5-wave move down, and then we need to see a 3-wave move back to the upside, and then continuation down in another 5-wave move. Now, at the moment, we don't have good structure for this, unless this is going to be A, B, and then we're going to see a deeper C wave, but we need to take this wave 1 low here, and if we do start to push down that low, it starts to become improbable that this is going to be a C wave, especially if we cross this 1618. So it is technically possible for us to push down into these levels and this still just to be ABC, but we need to see whether we actually continue to see this extension to the downside here. If we move past that 1.618, which is sitting here at this 0378, then we could actually just have this as a single 5-wave move, in which case what we'd then be looking for is this diagonal would still align here, but we'd have this as 1, 2 here. Then this would all become 3, we'd get 4, 5, then we'd be expecting a 3-wave move up, and then another 5-wave move down. So this could still align with the idea of having this as a diagonal pattern, but we can't cross the 1-to-1 of this wave 1 here. So effectively what we'd have here is invalidation of the idea of the diagonal would be at 304. So if we move beyond that 304 level, that would invalidate this idea of potentially becoming a diagonal to the downside. Now, if we are looking at this in this way, like I said, we need to see how these internals play out here. We're going to discuss some of the other higher time frame ideas here, and then we're going to go into the lower time frame internals for these. Now, the other way we were discussing this move is that potentially we could have this as a bigger corrective structure looking for an X wave. Now, what this would say from further back here is that we have the idea of a flat over here. We have this as our connector wave as an X, and what we're looking for is another 3-wave move to the upside in this as a Y wave. Now, if we're looking for that, what we could see is that we could get this as A, B, and we could see a bigger C wave looking to play out here. The 1-to-1 of the W wave has already been met here at this 0716, but I would like to see this take a bit more time if this is going to actually take place in this way. And what I would also be looking out for here is the possibility of actually pushing up towards this 1618. This would make a lot of sense just from a structure standpoint, that if we are going to see price looking to push up here, it would make a lot of sense to sweep this high before looking for that continuation down. So we're going to keep an eye on this idea here that, you know, from these lows we could be looking to push up in a Y wave. This Y wave could also be a C wave, in which case what we'd be looking for then would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In which case this 1618 target would be a common zone for an expanding flat. So we need to keep an eye on this 1028. If we do look to push up here, we can see that there is also a target box in this area, which is sitting towards the zone of this 1027 to the 0986. So this is a zone I'm going to be keeping an eye on if we do actually see price looking to push up here. But we need to be respectful of that possibility of just being able to push directly down. So the other ways we were looking at this move was saying that we could have this as an A wave, this is a B wave, and we're looking for evidence of the C wave. Now, we don't have good structure here looking for this as a C wave. If we do look to actually push up past this 20 cents level, we could start talking about the potential of actually having a bigger impulse here, but we need to see good structure developing over here to actually say that this is taking place. Now, within this idea, if we're looking for this as a C wave to the upside, what we would be looking for is a 5-wave move. Now, the problem that we have here is unless we count this as a diagonal pattern into this point, the only other way we can potentially look at this is saying that this is actually our wave 1 into this point here. We have this as an W, X, and Y here for a W wave. We have a 3-wave move up for X, and then we're looking for another Y wave down. Now within this idea here, what we'd then be saying is that we are looking for a Y wave to the downside. Now with this Y wave, we would have to actually look at it in this way, where we're saying that this is another A, B, and a C. So I've got this actually labeled as WXY, but it should be the A, B, and C. Now within this, what we'd be saying here then is that we need to see this move complete to the downside here, and then we need to look for a push to the upside. If we are looking at it in this way, what we would be looking for on the internal side of this is that we'd be looking for this yellow 5-wave move to complete. Now, once we get this completion of this yellow 5-wave move here, what we'd be saying is that this is 1, 2, 3, looking for 4 and 5 to the downside. 5th wave target would be 0471 to this 0461 level. Now, this would actually push us down here towards this 1236 to this 1382 level. So if we do see price looking to push down into this zone, this could then align with actually completing this yellow 5-wave move. Then it'll become quite important what happens next. If we complete a move down into these lows, what I would want to see is how price reacts. If we just get 3 waves back to the upside, this could actually indicate we see further extension to the downside, in which case what this would mean is that we could potentially be looking to extend out to the downside, because within this count, what I'm treating this whole move as here is A, B, and C, because this is looking for this as basically a W, X, and a Y. Now, if we are looking at this slightly different, what we could actually have here is that this could in fact be another 1, 2 over here. So if we complete this yellow move down here, this could align with having another 4th and a 5th, and then we'd have to look at this as another 1, 2 here. We'd get another 4th and a 5th, and then that would tie into the idea of this whole move being a 5-wave structure from this point. So we need to be very careful that if we continue to hold these previous 4th wave highs, that we could see this just actually continue to break to the downside. So that's what we're looking for within that idea of looking to push down a little bit deeper here. Now, the key thing within that idea of having that bigger bullish push to the upside here, where what we're saying is that this is 1 and a 2, is we don't really want to lose this 0434 level. If we start to lose this zone, this becomes less likely, and validation is here at this 0399. Now, another area of interest that I have over here marked up is this 0463 to this 058. This is our golden pocket area. It is also aligning quite nicely with these lows over here. And if we did see price looking to come back down into these zones, even into the 786 region, this would align with coming back into this previous diagonal that we've got over here. So I will be keeping an eye on this line, which is currently sitting towards this 0439 directly below us. So this is aligning with coming back into some of those levels. Now, the other way we can look at this move as a potentially bullish structure would be looking at this in this way. And what we would say is that we have this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 into this point. And then what this would mean is that from this point here, we look at this as our W wave to the downside. We have this as our connector wave here. And then we are looking for the push to the downside with this Y. Now, the way I'd be looking at this would be A, B, C, D, E as a triangle into this point, and then looking for this Y wave to the downside. Now, within this idea of having the Y wave down, this is basically following this count that we just went over here. We are currently already past the 1-to-1 of this, so I will be watching out a bit lower down here, like I said, towards this yellow box of this 0471 to the 061. And these lower levels here, 0472, 0461, is also aligning with these 1236 and this 1382. But we need to be very careful that we don't start to get further extension here, particularly as long as these 4th wave areas hold. If we do continue to hold them, we could be continuing to look to push to the downside. But we are currently within that within the support box range, and we have already come back down towards this 0.618 already. So we need to just be mindful that we could start to see some price action developing to the upside. So it's going to be important here. If we fail to develop these additional drops here, and we continue to hold these lows, and we start to build 1, 2, and then we build another 1, 2 here, and we set these higher lows and higher highs, we could actually look to eventually break out of this range and start to trend to the upside. If we do start to form a 5-wave move up like this, What we then need to be watching is how we react to the downside. 3 waves holding this low could actually indicate that we could be looking for that break to the upside. Now within this idea here, given our current low, what we'd have to see for a possibility of having a third wave is actually a push up towards this 1022 area. This would align quite nicely with this third wave target and this yellow target box area here. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that if we do see price starting to actually develop to the upside here. But we need to just be aware that, obviously we don't have a lot to go off of here. This would be using a diagonal pattern here as our starting point. And these are less reliable than the regular 5-wave move. So we'll have to keep an eye on it and see how it goes. But effectively, this would be looking for this possibility of breaking to the upside from this point, looking at this as just a corrective move up where we have this idea of a bigger ABC pattern. And then we are looking for, possibility to break down from this point. Obviously, if we do form this as A, B, and then we get another 5-wave move here, it is always possible in the future that what we could get is that we get something like this, where this becomes 1, 2, we get 3, 4, 5, and then we actually hold this low again. And if we do hold that low, this could actually become 1, 2, this becomes another 1, 2 here, and then we could actually look to break up in a bigger way. So if we are looking for that bullish standpoint, invalidation of this developing into an impulse is here at this 0.356. If we move down below that level, we can't look to develop as an impulse from this point here, though we could still potentially look to push up just in a more corrective way. Now, the idea of us pushing down in a 5th wave here, we've talked about this previously and said, we were looking for this as 1, 2, and then we're saying we need to hit this 1618. But now we've actually come down here and then we've moved back up. Now, the way we've moved back up here, it hasn't invalidated the idea that we could be extending in a 5th wave. We could still always see something like this, where this whole move here becomes 1 and 2. And then we look for another 3, 4, 5. Now, the only problem with this is that this wave 2 would be bigger than the previous wave 2. So this makes it less likely already. But what I'm looking out for here is that if we do continue to hold below this 0779 and we continue to form impulsive structure down, if we do move down towards the 0257 region, this would then make this count a viable count here. We would then be looking for the possibility of an additional 4th and a 5th, which could look to push us down towards this 0233 to this 0199. So this is our more bearish case here, where we're looking for a direct sell-off. The alternative, like we discussed, was the idea of this turning into a diagonal pattern here. We would be looking for a 5-wave move down, 3 waves up, another 5-wave move to actually complete this 3rd wave. But we don't have that at the moment. At the moment, we just have 3 waves to the downside. Now, it is also possible that if we are looking at this in the bigger W, X, and Y, where we're looking for this move to develop rather in 3 waves to the upside, what we could see is something more along these lines. So the key support zone I'm going to be watching here is lower down at this 0458 to this 0438. If we do move down into this region, this would be quite an interesting zone, because this is W, X, and then a Y wave would actually be at 1-to-1 at this 0438. So if we do see price continuing to push to the downside here, we could potentially look to find support in this region, in which case I would still be looking for that possibility of seeing a push back to the upside, back up towards this 0835 region, looking to sweep these highs again and looking to complete that bigger corrective structure. So that would be aligning also with, pushing back up here towards this 1236, which is sitting at this 0822. So going to be watching these zones at the moment until we actually start to see a bit more structure developing to the upside. There's nothing on the shorter term here that is potentially looking that bullish. We could argue here, that we have something like this as a 1, and then we have a 2 here, and then possibly 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then a wave 2 here, and then we're going to start to look to push to the upside. But there's not really enough evidence to say that. We'd need to start seeing price pushing back above this 0525 to get a better indication that something like this was playing out. And if we did see something like this, like these lows starting to hold here, we see this as another 1, 2, we get 3, 4, 5, and we push up past this 1618, then we could start be looking for, that idea of looking to break away from these zones, looking to push up in that bigger ABC pattern, where we're looking to form this C wave here, or potentially even a wave 3. But at the moment, we just don't have that. We don't have that evidence yet, and we just have a 3-wave move down. And until we actually start to see, more structure developing to the upside, the likelihood is that we still have this 5th wave to push down here. And then we'll have to see how we react from this point. So that would be this 0471 to this 0461. If we do just see this develop as 3 waves here, the likelihood is that we're still going to have one more push to the downside from this point here. It's going to be important what happens. 3 waves to the upside could mean that we have continuation down, particularly if it fails to break this 4th wave area around this 0505. If we start to see 5-wave structure developing to the upside, then we could actually potentially look to rally from this point. So it could be close to a rally here. We need to just respect what the price is telling us and see how we react at these key levels here. Failure to break back above this 0507 would make me believe that we still have another drop to the downside to come. Coming in here and having a look at the daily CPR lines, we can see that we actually pushed up to our R1 line, and we have faced rejection, and we've actually lost our central CPR lines. If we do look to push to the downside here, we do have potential to find support at this 481 area. If we do look to push beyond this level, other targets for today would be 0470, 460, and this 448 as potential downside targets. If we do, however, look to reclaim these central lines and we look to push up and get back above this 502, other daily targets are this 512, 523, and 533 for today. Now moving over here and having a look at the weekly pivots, what we can see here is that we are currently underneath our central CPR lines. We have rejected off this bottom line here, and we have started to move to the downside. If we do see price looking to push back up here, this could potentially offer us more resistance or potentially turn into support at this 501. Other targets would be 516 and this 531, which could offer us resistance above where we currently are. If we do look to break down from where we currently are this week, we have this 0446, we have this 406, and this 337 as potential downside targets for this week. If we do, however, look to manage to reclaim these central CPR lines, upside targets would become 555, we have 625, and this 664 as potential upside targets for this week. So we're going to be watching these zones to see if we do get some interactions with these levels. Now on the monthly, what we can see is we've actually printed a higher CPR line here, which is generally a bullish thing. Now we are currently underneath this. We haven't had any interaction with this yet. So if we do see price looking to push up here, this is 559, 596, and this 630 can act as a magnet for price. Now it is always possible we could see price looking to push down first, in which case we could see a test of this 0432 as a S1 line. If we do see price looking to break to the downside and we lose that S1 line, other targets for this month would be 341 and this 178 as potential downside targets. If we do look to the upside targets that we have here for this month, if we manage to reclaim these central lines, targets would be this 688, 852, and this 949 as potential upside targets for this month. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video. Leave us some feedback down below, and also in the description you'll find a link to the Discord. Come check it out. It's free to join. Everyone have a great day. We will see you in the next one. Take care.